Yes, you read that title correctly. Sonic Team posted a Sonadow Fic on their website, Sonic Channel, a trendy website made by Sega Japan, full of amazing Sonic art, fun contests, and the latest news for the Sonic franchise. It's also where Sonic fans can read exclusive stories of various Sonic characters and learn more about them. All joking aside, this quote-unquote fanfic was actually part of a monthly series in 2021, where Sonic went on a little adventure with other characters like Cream, Amy, and even Metal Sonic, interestingly enough. Each story was written by Eitaro Toyoda, the Sonic character supervisor, and also had their associated artwork for the calendar. For those who are unaware, there are stark differences in dialogue and characterization between the English and Japanese scripts. Now, I'm not here to claim which version is superior. You're entitled to your own opinion, and you like what you like. But I bring this up because many Sonadow fans follow the Japanese version for a variety of reasons. But the main reason is that it's a little fruitier. Well, a lot fruitier sometimes. And since the Year of Shadow, Sega Japan has been heavily marketing to the Sonadow audience. Like this picture right here. This was from their YouTube channel about a week ago. Isn't that funny? But, I mean, it works every time, like we're just giving them all our money. Anyway, back to 2021. As the months went by, Sonadow fans were eagerly anticipating the Sonic and Shadow artwork and what their story would be about. And in late June 2021, the Sonic Team Twitter account revealed that July's artwork and story would be of Sonic and Shadow. Yes, the original Sonic X Shadow. The story that changed everything for Sonadow fans. The story's description reads, an original mini-novella that portrays the appeal of various characters through their relationship with Sonic. Shadow sometimes fights alone and condemns the world. A chapter centering on his tense joint struggle with Sonic. Toyoda basically looked at our fics and said, alright, I'm gonna show you how to write a real Sonadow fanfic. Now, I do want to recognize that not everyone in my audience ships Sonadow, and that is totally fine. Some people here ship Shadouge, some ship Sonamy, a handful of you guys don't really get into shipping, and not everyone's going to look at the story from a shipping perspective, and I just ask that both Sonadow fans and non-Sonadow fans alike keep things civil and respectful towards one another and just have a good time. There's nothing that makes me happier than Sonic fans coming together and enjoying the content because it's awesome, and it makes us smile. More cake for us, yay. This story is charming, fun, action-packed, a little silly, but also tender, sentimental, wistful. Everything I like to see with Sonic and Shadow. Do keep in mind, this is a mostly paraphrased version of the story, with my commentary here and there. Sonic Channel shares these stories and content for free, and they want people to visit their website and engage in their work. So I do want everyone to check out the full thing for themselves. And that way Sonic Team knows that people are still passionate about their exclusive stories to this day. I've also linked the two translations I'll be referring to by Wendy and Izzy Dennis, since the translation feature on the website may not be the most reliable. One thing I'm excited about during this Sonadow summer era is that there will be multiple artist spotlights, and I will share some amazing artwork from a few brilliant Sonadow artists in this video. So y'all are in for a treat. But with all that out of the way, sit back, relax, enjoy this beautiful story, and have a happy Sonadow summer. Sonic visits Mission Street, best known for its trendy shops. But for Sonic, it's the perfect spot to catch a particularly rare celestial event. He arrived a little early, so he decided to kill some time by people watching. That's when he spotted a familiar rival of his fighting with something in a back alley. It's none other than Shadow the Hedgehog, one of Sonic's toughest opponents, and described as not necessarily evil, but his cool-headed nature and willingness to use any means necessary to achieve his goals encompasses a dangerous purity that sometimes makes enemies of even Sonic and his friends. What is Shadow doing here? Sonic wondered to himself. As Sonic investigated, he found a couple of destroyed military beetles emitting smoke and lying by Shadow's feet. Sonic cheekily asks, "Hey Shadow, are you having fun?" Not in the mood to socialize, Shadow responds, "It's nothing to do with you. Don't get in my way," and runs off. If he answers carelessly, Shadow will disappear into the darkness in an instant. But Sonic isn't about to lag behind. He chases after Shadow, and the two engage in a thrilling fight all over the city. Shadow attacks with his sharp axe kick, but Sonic catches it with both hands. He could block it? I couldn't avoid it. Shadow leaps back and asks in an irritating tone, "Why do you keep following me?" To which Sonic teasingly says, "I don't want to be blamed for your misdeeds again." Shadow takes out his Chaos Emerald that seems to be malfunctioning. "Huh. You're being self-conscious, aren't you? I'm busy. If you'll excuse me, I have to go." Sonic knew what that meant. Looks like he answered carelessly. Shadow disappears after performing Chaos Control. Sonic, left alone, could only look up at the night sky. Shadow. Shadow arrives at a bank building and wrecks a new beetle drone to break inside. "It's here. There's no mistaking it," he says to himself. He proceeds to the vault, destroying additional beetle drones that get in his way. As he reaches the vault, he sees none other than Sonic the Hedgehog standing by the door with a grin on his face and a keycard in his hand. He used Tails' energy detector and snuck through a different route to reach Shadow. Stalker. Sonic noticed that despite all of this destruction, not a single alarm went off. I really like this next interaction. Shadow speaks up and begins to ask, "So, what do you need in exchange for that keycard?" "No, that's a foolish question. You just find this situation intriguing and want the full picture." Realizing that Sonic wasn't going to let up, Shadow explains that the reason he's here is because this bank is actually disguised as a weapons laboratory. It seems that the government is analyzing Eggman's power-generating capsules that they seized during the last battle and could potentially be developing weapons from it. He also learned that one of the capsules was a time bomb in disguise that could wipe out half of the city by midnight. Shadow tried to warn the researchers, but they didn't listen, so that's why he's here. Shadow returns the question to Sonic on what he's doing there. He gives him a challenging look, but Sonic is rendered speechless, and both remain quiet for several seconds. Sonic admits that he doesn't even know what to say. Before he could answer Shadow's question, he received an alert from Tails' energy detector of a high-energy signature within the closed vault. He grins at Shadow and tells him, "I'm gonna trust Tails' tech," as he scans the keycard to unlock the large door. As soon as they opened the door, they heard the sound of a bang. All of a sudden, a group of panicked researchers run out of the vault and warn the two hedgehogs that the building is going to blow up. The emergency sirens were finally sounding off as people ran for cover. Sonic and Shadow entered the vault and realized that the laboratory was much larger than they initially thought. They spotted the glowing capsule that was guarded inside an electromagnetic barrier at the back of the room, but they didn't have much time left. They instinctively worked together to reach the bomb, Sonic destroying any robots that got in their way, so Shadow had a clear path to the time bomb. Right before the electric barrier could detect Shadow and harm him, Sonic located the generator just in time and destroyed it in a split second. Beautiful teamwork. That's how you do it, baby. Shadow grabs the time bomb and performs chaos control to teleport it high in the sky. Sonic looked up and watched the giant explosion in amusement, and then gave a thumbs up to Shadow, who was already outside after using chaos control. But he was visibly frustrated, because he actually wanted to transport it to space, but couldn't go that high up since the Chaos Emerald was drained of its energy. Well, that's actually pretty lucky, all things considered. Like, what if the Chaos Emerald didn't work? Like, what then, Shadow? Ah, well, it's best not to think about it, you know? As Sonic goes out to meet up with Shadow, he tosses the emerald back to him. Shadow? I don't need anything less than a fake. If I give it to someone good-natured like you, you'll resurrect it or something, won't you? I really like this little interaction. It's one of those rare moments of recognition from Shadow, and I find it sweet that he calls Sonic good-natured and believes that he can repower the Chaos Emerald. Funny enough, Sonic replied with a stunned expression as he caught the emerald with one hand. I was going to say thank you, but I decided not to. Yeah, whatever you say, Sonic. Afterwards, Shadow walks down a deserted lane off of Mission Street with Sonic tagging along with a grin on his face and his hands behind his head as he looks at the night sky. Why do you keep following me? Shadow asks, to which Sonic responds, I'm the one who wants to know why. Since when did you become the guy who secretly works for everyone's peace? As Shadow responds, we get a little insight on his motives. I'm not interested in peace. I don't care what happens to others. I just can't stand it when foolish beings do whatever they please on this planet, whether it's the doctor or anyone else, including you. And then he hits us with the classic, don't get the wrong idea. This matches up to his Sonic Channel bio, which describes him as not interested in either benevolence or wickedness, but he sometimes confronts Sonic and his friends because of his hard-headed character, willing to do anything to achieve his ends. He is a perfectionist with a high sense of pride, and demands the finest standards from himself and others. When he discovered that the time bomb the researchers were working with could wipe out half of the city, and no one was going to do anything about it, he felt that he needed to take matters into his own hands. Because, yeah, what a foolish thing to do. To put so many people's lives at risk for the sake of making more weapons, and cause all this unnecessary harm and destruction towards the planet. Humans really are foolish, and I will never blame Shadow for thinking that. Some people seem to take it personally that Shadow hates humanity, but think about all the horrendous things humanity has done up to this day, for no good reason, and tell me how you don't feel the same way. Both remained quiet for a moment, Shadow pouting while Sonic is still grinning. I think at this moment he genuinely understands Shadow, but he also wants him to see that humanity isn't so black and white, and a reasonable amount of humans do not want to do foolish things and are actually grateful for Shadow and appreciate him. He breaks the silence and says, "Okay, gotcha. I'll try to be careful, but I think there are a lot of people who would like to thank you for what you did today." That's nonsense. Shadow huffs as he stops in his tracks. He turns towards Sonic, as if to tell him to shut up. But then, something happens. And this is the moment I just cannot paraphrase, because it would not do the story justice. There, with the distant lights of the city in the background, Sonic stood with his right arm outstretched, pointing toward the night sky while looking toward Shadow, and the full moon shining brightly where he pointed. They could also see the Space Colony Ark floating just above it, looking down at them. In the midst of the transcendental scene, Shadow couldn't help but gasp at the sight of the Ark, which looked almost divine in the moonlight from below. The Ark of Hope and Mistakes. This is the place where Shadow was once born, where he gained and lost so much of his precious things in time. A ruin floating in the vacuum, where too many things were given up to protect this planet. Once a year, due to the orbital alignment of the satellites, there is a night where the Ark can be seen directly above the full moon. Mission Street was one of the best places to see it, and the celestial show of two cold, dignified moons floating in a sea of warm city lights was Sonic's favorite. Shadow looks up at the Ark in silence. No one knows how much memory and truth is left in his heart about what happened in the past, or what he is thinking now. But this silence seemed to be the answer to Sonic. As if in response, Sonic slowly lowered his hand. As Shadow followed this meaningful movement with his eyes, Sonic pointed his hand directly at his own face, and smirked. Ugh, ridiculous. As he snapped, Shadow straddled a motorcycle that was behind a thicket on the side of the road. It is a big military motorcycle. It must have been prepared here in advance. The engine roared, as if to reject Sonic's attempts to say something. The second one's redundant. He drives off at full throttle. Sonic, seeing him off without chasing him, had his usual grin on his face. But he also looked somewhat disappointed. Damn. You ruined it, Sonic. You blew it, man. Earlier in the story, it stated that if Sonic answers carelessly, Shadow will disappear into the darkness in an instant. And that's sort of what happens here. When Sonic points at the sky and shows Shadow the one reason he visited Mission Street, why he's there, they share this rare, delicate moment that they've never really quite had with other characters. In this moment, it was as if all of Shadow's frustrations vanished as he's gazing at his old home. We don't know what Shadow's thinking about, but it seems like Sonic kinda does, and he gets it. He briefly has Shadow captivated, which is something you don't often see. As Sonic lowers his hand, Shadow follows the meaningful movement with his eyes, perhaps wondering what else he might share with him. Perhaps Sonic was trying to be playful when he pointed towards himself and smirked, but he ends up irritating Shadow, cutting that delicate moment short. Shadow is kind of like a cat. You do something that makes them mad, and then they'll hiss at you and run away, and just wants to be alone. It does make me wonder, though, what would have happened if Sonic just lowered his hand back down to his side, and remained quiet and just continued to watch the celestial show? Would Shadow have stayed longer and watched the night sky with him? Would he have said, "This is nice"? I don't know, and I guess I never will. Shadow continues to ride off. Who knows where he's going? Mission Street, a trendy place for business and shopping, with the full moon in the starry sky. There was a shadow that was drifting away from this warmly lit, peaceful city, as if it were being ostracized. It was so small that no one paid it any attention. Only the moon, overlooking the bustling streets of the city, seemed to watch over that shadow, forever and ever. This is a very wistful ending. I can't really explain why, because this is different, but I can't help but also be reminded of the memory scenes in Super Paper Mario. I think it just reminds me of those moments where it's a late summer night and you're with someone. It doesn't have to be your crush, it could be your friend, your sibling. You're not really doing anything exciting, but you're having a good time just talking to this person. Maybe you're looking out at the night sky, and in that moment, everything is perfect. Your troubles and fears temporarily fade away. You don't know what will happen in the future, but that's okay, because you're happy right now, and you try to cherish that moment in the best way you can. That's what I'd like to think that Sonic was feeling, and what Shadow was feeling too. Well, before Sonic had to ruin the moment. One little tidbit I like to share is that this story was posted on June 28th, the anniversary of the Stonewall Uprising. Now, this is American-specific history, and you could definitely argue that Sega Japan probably didn't have that in mind when they posted the story, but I can't help but be fascinated by it. Sometimes art and life coincide with each other, and it's poetic when it happens. So I choose to think of it as symbolic. I think it's really special and cool that this amazing story just so happened to be shared on the Stonewall anniversary. Sonic is about being yourself after all and fighting for freedom. And that's what these brave people had to do in the past, and that's what we have to do now to protect our right to exist and live freely. Just like Shadow, we cannot allow ourselves to tolerate foolishness of people who think they can do whatever they please on this planet. and just like Sonic, we have to fight for what's right. And that's why this story, being shared on the Stonewall anniversary, means so much to me. One thing that is undeniable and no coincidence is the Tanabata symbolism throughout the story. While the story was posted on June 28th, Sonic and Shadow's calendar artwork was for the month of July. Tanabata, otherwise known as the Star Festival, takes place on the 7th day of the 7th month and is widely celebrated in Japan. The story behind it is about the reunion of Orihime and Hikuboshi, two star-crossed lovers who are separated by the Milky Way and can only reunite once a year. In the Sonic and Shadow story, the Space Colony arc can be seen directly above the moon once a year, and the best place to view this occurrence is at Mission Street, a bustling area for shopping and celebrations. The celestial show of these two cold, dignified moons floating in a sea of warm city lights was Sonic's favorite. It's also implied that these two cold, dignified moons represent Sonic and Shadow, Sonic being the moon, and Shadow being the Space Colony arc. Shadow is a man-made invention like the Space Colony arc, while Sonic and the moon are natural occurrences. When Sonic lowers his hand and points at himself, it's as if he's telling Shadow that he's the moon. He's Shadow's moon. However, you can also interpret the moon symbolizing Maria as well. At the end of the story, she's watching over Shadow as he continues to live his life. On the first day of Tanabata in 2024, Sega Japan posted these mini Tanabata banners, and you can see Sonic and Shadow on the left. The caption says, "Today is Tanabata. What wish would you like to make?" Very sweet. I wish for Sonic fans to be happy and just enjoy things and not get caught up in the cynicism or complain about renders or Sonic Forces or whatever's happening. Oh, and I wish for a Super Paper Mario remake. And I wish for $1 million. And The end of each chapter has writer's notes where Toyoda summarizes the character's history and provides commentary of their relationship with Sonic. This one is titled A Rare, Up-Close, and Personal Relationship. Shadow is the ultimate life form with formidable power and speed, created by Dr. Eggman's grandfather, Professor Gerald. He is a black hedgehog that looks exactly like Sonic. However, the only similarity is in their silhouettes. Their personalities and tendencies are completely different. They both clashed with each other in fierce opposition over the emergence of a rival who might be more than an equal. And in the end, they reached a point where they at least recognized each other's abilities. Of course, they would never admit that to each other. The only moments where they do admit it is when the world is ending, which makes it all the more heart-wrenching.
Shadow, お前は究極なんだろう。最後まで諦めんなよ。
I really like how Toyoda highlights the stark contrasts of Sonic and Shadow's adventures. Sonic lives his life freely, follows his heart's desire, without thinking about anything so ceremonious. Shadow, on the other hand, faces up to the shackles of ties, fate, and memories from the past, and is reaching a state of mind where he is able to follow his heart's desire in his own way, or at least so it seems. However, it can be said that the state of mind that Shadow is trying to reach from the darkest depths of his struggles is completely different from Sonic's, in both history and character. That's why I like to think of them as two sides of the same coin, rather than pure opposites. Because they do have overlapping characteristics. Both are stubborn and will do what they think is best. They're both uncompromising in their beliefs. And while Shadow's worldview is more cynical, I think you could argue that Sonic also doesn't like when foolish people do whatever they please, at the risk of harming others. And while Sonic is a lot more open about it, I think Shadow also enjoys the rush of an adventure and competition. I feel that both their similarities and differences help them learn from each other throughout the games. Now, this is the paragraph that validated a lot of Sonadow fans. I remember reading this for the first time and feeling so seen. Now, what is Sonic to Shadow and Shadow to Sonic? If there is one thing that can be said about them, it is that they're both a rare presence that can seep into the other's inner depths. In fact, perhaps Sonic is the only person who can get so up close and personal with Shadow and say something to him that reaches his heart, though it often doesn't. In a sense, his kind of presence is troublesome, but it is also one of the most important ones. When asked about some clarification on the English translation of the writer's notes, Toyoda provided this answer: make of that what you will, but essentially both can really reach each other's sensitive spot. Mentally speaking, emotionally speaking, and maybe physically speaking too, I don't know. When Sonadow is openly discussed on various social media platforms, a recurring comment I see is that Sonic and Shadow hate each other. Most of the people who leave those kind of comments are homophobes anyway and are just trying to make everyone else miserable, so who cares what they think? But I noticed that the fandom in general had that belief for the longest time. And as someone who religiously played or rewatched cutscenes of Sonic Battle, Sonic 06, Sonic Colors DS, Sonic Forces, etc., that never made sense to me. Like, are we playing the same games? So when I read this, I thought, yes, finally, I'm not crazy. I knew they shared a connection that goes beyond typical rivalry. The one example I think of when Sonic manages to reach Shadow's heart is their little conversation at Emerald Beach in Sonic Battle. He tells him, if you have a heart, you would never use your power for the forces of evil. There's no way you could. Weapons aren't supposed to have hearts, but both you and Emerald do. You guys, you aren't just weapons. While Shadow initially rejects Sonic's words, it seems that he did get through to him when he takes Emerald to Eggman's supercomputer and asks why he and Emerald have hearts and souls. And maybe this is a coincidence, but Shadow uses that phrase, heart and soul, in both the English and Japanese scripts of Sonic Forces. Regardless if you ship them together or not, they have such a captivating relationship, and I can't help but be drawn towards all of their interactions, both when they fight and when they just talk, when they're racing, and when they're standing in one place. One last thing I want to show is the original sketch Sonic Channel shared a couple weeks after posting the story. Quote, a series of 2021 calendars and wallpapers featuring Sonic with another character. Today, we're releasing a rough drawing of Sonic and Shadow for the month of July. At this point, they both had a bit of a cute vibe to them. Still, it's just as much like them. I love that. There are serious and somber moments that happen throughout these stories, but by the end of the day, Sonic characters are also just really cute and silly and fun, and it's important to enjoy those moments as well. Before we wrap things up, I want to shout out and appreciate all of the wonderful artists featured in this video, and thank them for putting out all of this amazing art and brightening everyone's day. First, we have the brilliant, iconic Neneyum. Her art is absolutely stunning, and I feel like it represents the duality of Sonadow so well. She's got the silly, funny side of Sonadow, but on the other side of that coin, she has beautiful, gorgeous artwork like this. I love Sonic's expression and how he's sheltering Shadow from the rain. I also really love this hourglass piece. She has also had a couple of her works featured on Sonic Channel. I also want to give a huge thank you to Nene for encouraging me to make this video. I originally wasn't planning to because I covered it in the Sonadow iceberg, and I was afraid that I'd be repeating content, but then again, I do repeat myself often anyway, and Nene suggested the idea of a standalone video since so many people still ask about the story. And understandably, most people probably don't want to watch a 3-hour video. And I love the story so much, so I was happy to revisit it again. Everyone say thank you, Nene. You can follow Neneyum on Twitter, Instagram, and BlueSky. This cute Tanabata piece called Faded Rivals is by Clariecandy. Fun fact, this was selected in Sonic Channel's fan art contest for the month of July. And like Tanabata fashion, the theme was two people. Clarie's description reads, Sonic met Shadow by chance while hanging up Tanabata paper strips at a shrine. The two of them always meet wherever they go. They really are destined to be together. And the staff comment reads, "The lighting is beautiful, and your eyes are naturally drawn to Sonic's hand, which is drawn slightly backlit. You wonder what the two of them felt when they saw the wishes written on various strips of paper." Yes, I couldn't agree more. I love how scenic and romantic this feels. Clary also submitted this lovely drawing of Sonic in Apatow, and it's raining chili dogs. Sadly, it did not get selected, but I'm honored to be able to showcase and feature this here. The scenery is so beautiful, and the pink flowers add such a nice touch. Also, one thing that's really cool is that Clariecandy also got featured in Sonic Team's Joy Police video. Like, talk about a Sonic Channel favorite. That's amazing! You can follow Clariecandy on Twitter and BlueSky. She also runs a Sonadow travel plushie account called ChiriKafei, and you can also check that out on Twitter and BlueSky. Next, we have ToffeeLights. Absolutely love and adore her work. She was part of the Sonadow Iceberg feature, so I'm really thrilled to showcase her work again. It is so dreamy and ethereal, and I always get this whimsical feeling when I look at her art. Also, I love her Sapphic Sonadow art. We need more Sapphic Sonadow. I mean, I'm biased because I love women, so. A new personal favorite of Toffee's work is this piece right here. She was taking suggestions one day on Instagram, and I begged her to draw the Sonic and Shadow hydrangea post, and it looks so good. You can give Toffee a follow on Instagram, Twitter, and BlueSky. And last, but certainly not least, we have Razzy. Her backgrounds and shading are always so stunning and pleasing to look at. I really love this Chasing Adventures, Chasing You piece. I like how Sonic is slightly ahead of Shadow, so if you were to combine both sides, you'll see that Sonic is always ahead. The melancholic undertones just really captivates me. And for those that don't know, Razzy also made the thumbnail for my Spilver video. You can give Razzy a follow on Twitter under the name Sonadowmoe. And that wraps up all the artists that were featured in this video. More Sonadow artist spotlights to come during this Sonadow summer, so stay tuned. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. After this Sonadow summer era comes to an end, I'd like to cover the Sonic and Amy 2021 story next, because that one is also very sweet and reminds me of being young and in love and a little stupid. Shout out to both Wendy and Dizzy Dennis for putting in the time to translate the Sonic Channel stories so that more people in the fandom can enjoy these. The translations, as well as the original, are linked in the description. Definitely check them out for yourself and all the other cool stuff that Sonic Channel has going on. I really want to express my gratitude towards the Japanese and Western social media teams for putting out so much free content for us Sonic fans to enjoy. I've said this before in my other Sonic Channel videos, but there really is no better time to be a Sonic fan than now. Like, we are truly, truly spoiled. I'm a Mario fan too, and we don't even get all this cool free stuff, you know? And again, please share your love and support for all the artists mentioned in this video. Please subscribe if you're not already. If you'd like to further support the channel, I do have a Patreon and YouTube memberships. If you want to tip me a couple bucks through Super Chat or through Ko-fi, that is very much appreciated. But remember, I'm happy to have you here regardless, and thank you so much for your support. But wait, this video isn't done just yet. To my Sonadow fans, I have a bonus for you. I know a lot of us love making playlists of our favorite ships, so I figured that I'd share my favorite songs that make me think of Sonadow, and hopefully get some music recommendations from you guys. It's Sonadow summer after all, so may as well have fun with it, you know? So in the Sonadow Iceberg video, I brought up Tech It by Kafune, as well as The Perfect Pair and See You Soon by Biba Doobie as my personal Sonadow songs. Some other ones are Do I Wanna Know by Arctic Monkeys, Motive by Ariana Grande, Die With a Smile by Lady Gaga. I like to picture this from Sonic's point of view. Tucked by Katy Perry, Love Again by Dua Lipa. You know, for the hopeless romantics. I actually saw a Sonadow edit to this song a few years ago and was just like, yes, adding it to the playlist. This one's more of a joke, but Casual by Chapel Roan for those who enjoy situationship Sonadow. Also, The Giver is specifically a lesbian Sonadow song from Sonic's point of view. I won't explain any further. And the rest of these songs, well, they're by Taylor Swift. Sorry, I know a lot of you aren't Swifties. Honestly, the reason I kept listening to Taylor Swift throughout the years is because a lot of her songs have that Sonadow energy. I mean, I have a whole ass PowerPoint about it that, I don't know, maybe I need to finish soon. But here we go. Style, Out of the Woods, Sad, Beautiful, Tragic for those who love that sweet, angsty Sonadow, Treacherous, Wonderland, This Is Me Trying, Afterglow, Dancing with Her Hands Tied, basically almost all of Reputation. Tell me your Sonadow song so I can diversify my playlist, because I was looking at it and was like, oh my god, most of these are all Taylor Swift songs. There has to be Sonadow songs out there from different artists. Anyway, thanks again for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Bye!